Angelina Jolie's going to be in a Marvel movie, but I think that's like the first movie she's been in like 5 years.
Yeah. She's got like 11 kids, so
No.
that's probably... Yeah, something like that. Well, Brad just got... Why do I know so much about celebrity gossip?
It is one of your most intriguing and endearing qualities.
It's weird, isn't it? It doesn't quite
fit. You're the jazz-playing saxophonist. You're the animal lover. You're the, intellectual with an interest in big questions. Where did we come from? Where are we going? And I know exactly what Angelina Jolie's been up to.
Exactly. On my coffee table, you'll find a new scientist, another
Psychology
science magazine.
Okay, not the best.
Psychology Today.
Not the best
And
example.
a new idea.
Okay, yeah. You get the big three.
Yeah. Not to be confused with the other science mag, New Ideas.
Yeah.
Which is a very different magazine.
Yeah. Well, you're an enigma.
So I am. And also, did you just call me an intellectual? Because that was a first. That really made my, move a little bit.
Well, I had to make it up for you after going a little bit hard out on the whole eating food thing. So I wound it down a bit.
Appreciated it.
Yeah.
Appreciated it. So a lot to get through.
A lot to get through. One. And I don't want to be 2 hours this week. I've got needs,
What needs do you have?
Food needs.
What needs could you possibly have?
I have food needs.
Right. So what was the reception on the longest pod ever from last one?
I don't know what the reception was. I didn't hear much from people. I think everyone looked at it and was just like, nah. 2 hours? Yeah.
I listened to half of it. And
to be there, you were there at the time of recording, so.
But I almost never remember what I say.
Yeah. I thought it was a good app.
I think so too. I always, whenever I listen back to them, I always hear, because I'm focusing on what I'm saying, obviously, but I miss a lot of what you say. Like, you say things that I just never have heard.
Yeah.
Even though you've told me them.
Part of that might have been, as well, the Skype thing. In the edit, you don't really hear it. But for us recording live, there is always a little bit of the lag thing where Skype will mute the person it thinks isn't speaking. And, some of that stuff is just easier to hear when you're on the pod.
Yeah. I might just open up this window because I don't like how there's no light, but I'm exposing myself to the street. But, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, fair
I'll
enough.
think of them as a
live studio audience.
The NBC News, yeah.
Yeah, or Channel 7 on Martin Place in Sydney.
Yeah. Oh, that's where they had that. Whenever I hear Martin Place, which comes up a lot because I think it's like a business district.
It's a hub.
In Sydney. I can't help think Lint Cafe and terrorism.
Hostage, yeah.
It's like whenever I go through a tunnel, I always think about Princess Diana.
See, that's unusual.
Is it?
It was 25 years ago.
Never forget.
Okay, right. But every time you go into an office block, you don't think about 9/11, do you? So you've chosen.
I think about 9/11 more than most people. That's definitely true.
That's probably true.
I think about 9/11 probably every second day. It pops into my head. Not even joking.
What?
Not even
really?
Joking.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I'm fascinated by it. It's one of the craziest things that have ever happened in our lifetime. And it was the first huge mass, I know it just happened in New York, but it was involved the world, or it felt like it because America's the world.
Yeah.
And it was just recorded from all different angles, and the footage was good. It wasn't like Pearl Harbor where you have to see Ben Affleck do a shitty reenactment of what happened.
Yeah.
It's it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and that
fair.
was not in the age of phones either.
No.
Something just deeply unsettling about that.
Yeah.
But so we've had a couple of birthdays.
That's true.
So
that's true. Happy
I want
birthday.
to talk about your birthday. I want to get into that.
Okay. Oh, I don't know that I have much to talk about on my birthday.
Did no one remember?
Oh. Well, sorry. I guess this is all leading up to your present for me. So, Look, let's just bring it out now. You give me the present, and we'll get a live reaction.
Do you want your present now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, right now probably. Okay, he's taking his. You need to commit now that we're on video camera.
Well,
Are you lowering the blind again? Oh my God, Jesus Christ!
Yeah, dude. Read it and weep, dude.
Well, I did weep.
Merry happy birthday. Yeah.
I don't know whether to say thanks or call the police.
Don't call the police. I mean, you would. You've done it on your neighbours.
Yeah.
Snitch.
For less, yeah.
So no one remembered your birthday.
No, that's not true. People remember my birthday. We went out for a dinner. It was nice. It was chill. It just like it's 32. I mean, it's not like a big special number, is it?
I agree. Like, I felt more ambivalent about this birthday than I have ever, and I expect that trend will continue.
Yeah.
You know, usually it's like something you're like thinking about, and like on the day of your birthday, even though like you're doing other things, like it's this weird thing that you're like, it's my birthday, and like you just know it. Like you go to the shops, and you know you're thinking, even if you're not preoccupied by it, you're like, it's got this special glow about it. But that can also lead to a lot of disappointment, because if you're just doing regular things, then you know, and no one's making a big fuss, because that's why you care in the first place. Because when you're a kid, everyone like made a big deal about it, but now you're an adult and everyone's like, well, get over it. Yeah,
you kind of, when you're walking around that day and you're feeling that little glow of like, it's my day, you kind of want to be projecting it a little bit so that someone says, oh, you look good, or how's your day been, or any sort of opening where you can be like, oh, it's my birthday. Yeah.
I would never do that though.
No big deal.
Would you do that?
Depends who it is. If it's a friend, I would bring it up. If it was like the checkout chick, I would not be like, it's my birthday.
Unless you could do it. Maybe you could do it at like a bar and like you could get a free drink maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm like...
Or at a bakery and get a free meringue.
I mean, if that's your equivalent, sure. But I'm like got this scar on my psyche from when I was like maybe 7. Is that year 1 or 2 or something? And I was I went to primary school at St. Raphael's. It was actually on Glen Osmond Road. You've probably driven past it a number of times. But I remember going in there, and it was my birthday. And the school, they had like this courtyard, and then the school was kind of like in a building in a square formation around the courtyard. So you could go into the courtyard and see kids up, you know, it'd be like year 9 kids and then year 11 and 12 kids. I might be remembering this wrong because it was just a primary school. So anyway, there were older kids on higher levels.
Okay.
And I went into the courtyard when I was like 7, and some kid that was like usually picked on me because I was there early, and he was also there early, but he was bigger than me and he made fun of me all the time. He said, I went into the courtyard and he said some snarky comment, and I said, "Hey, it's my birthday!" And I like yelled it out and like proclaimed it. And he went, "Shut up!" And I remember just feeling so embarrassed.
Oh.
And now I carry that with me. I genuinely carry that with me.
That's like 25 years ago.
I have a few of those things that like, they're kind of like scars in high school. I think a lot of what I do is based on what happened to me in high school, or what.
That's true for a lot of people though, right?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal, which is weird because you change completely. You know, most of the people that I know from high school have changed so much. Like if I haven't seen them since, they're almost unrecognizable if they pop up on Facebook or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
how was your birthday?
But my birthday was good. I got some cool shit.
Oh yeah, nice.
I got some very cool shit. So, Emma got me this. I love cold brew coffee.
Yep.
And you know, it costs $4.50 every day, and you know, buying 4 coffees a week, it adds up.
It does. Yeah, yeah.
So she got me a Japanesey kind of cold drip filter thing, coffee, that it makes like 2 liters of cold drip coffee.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I just fill it up and leave it in overnight, and by the next morning I've got 2 liters of cold brew coffee. So that was cool.
That's awesome. That's a nice gift.
Very nice gift. And I also got some astronomy binoculars from my friends.
Oh, nice.
It was so nice. I was not expecting any gift at all. Like I got taken out for lunch by a few friends, including Emma. And then when I went back to our friend's apartment, they had this astronomy binoculars there, and it was almost.
So what makes them astronomy binoculars? Are they specifically bigger, or like what different lenses? What do they do?
Well, first of all, they're huge. They kind of look like, I feel like James Bond when I wear them, because they're like kind of short. They're small in terms of cylindrical diameter, whatever. They start off small and then get bigger. They kind of look like cool spy ones, and they're quite long as well. But I think they just magnify more than regular binoculars.
Yeah, sure.
But you're meant to be able to see like the outline of the rings of Saturn with them.
Oh, wow.
So I very much enjoyed looking at the moon the other day when it was the blood moon.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the main gist of what I got.
Well, let's pick up that stargazing thing in a minute. But in the meantime, welcome to Deep 4, everybody. This is a podcast. We talk about events that happened in the world through a political and philosophical lens, with a light touch of comedy and just a hint of ego, in a way that hopefully is enjoyable for the listener. Now, sitting through the internet with me, Michael, it's been your birthday. Here's a space for you to proclaim something.
It's my birthday!
Shut up!
Triggered.
And I'm Nick.
Seriously, thank you.
Hi, Nick. Hi. So speaking of stargazing, I had a stargazing adventure this week as well. Last weekend, KC and I head down to Tekapo, which we had done on the trip that we took at the end of last year, for what was meant to be sort of the last showpiece event of that trip on New Year's Eve, which was a stargazing experience followed by a hot pool soak. Now, Tekapo is a dark sky reserve, so there is legal requirements on businesses and houses there to really minimize light pollution, with the explicit goal of maintaining the sky and the visibility of the sky. And there are astronomers based there, and what do you call the big telescopy? What do you call a telescope house? Observatory. Thank you.
Telescope house is cool though.
Yeah, observatories there. So it's like a real treasured space. Unfortunately, when we went in December last year, we had clouds, just complete cloud cover. So no chance of seeing stars. So we rebooked it, and they let you pick a different day. And so this was our second attempt. And thankfully, the weather was perfect. Absolutely, like cloudless, fucking cold. Almost alpine-y.
They are on
freezing.
those cloudless nights, aren't they?
Yeah, like freezing. But just pristine sky for both of the nights that we stayed there. So we drove up last Friday, and the stargazing thing was Saturday. And on both nights, it was just amazing. Like truly a special sight to sort of be in such a remote region with no light pollution, staring up and just seeing a cascade of the universe around you. It was amazing.
Yeah, your photos made me insanely jealous. Like, I can't believe that you were able to take a photo of that and it to hold up, because I could see the Milky Way in there.
I took a photo of the Milky Way on my phone. Like, that's how good the phone is, the iPhone.
What's the phone?
Just the latest iPhone. But I didn't have a lens. I didn't have a tripod. Like, I wasn't doing anything fancy. I just put it on the put it on a ledge and just pointed it up. and just left it there with a long exposure, and boom, fucking Milky Way.
Unbelievable.
Ridiculous.
If you can take, it just makes you think, if you can take a photo of that good of the Milky Way, imagine how good your selfies could be.
I could really try a lot harder. Maybe a long exposure on my face would really bring out some of the dark patches.
I'm sure you've had a few long exposures on your face. I don't even know what that means.
It sounded like it worked. Like for a second there, I was really like, oh, that's a good one.
But when you think about it,
then when I thought about it, it didn't make sense. But for
it's
a while,
kind of my MO.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like it works, but when you think about it for more than a second, it doesn't.
So I hadn't been able to sleep on the Friday night, and I tossed and turned, and then I just was like, oh, fuck it.
You were too excited about the Milky Way?
Yeah, just I don't, you know, some nights it just, I think I was actually too hot, because KC is like a fucking nuclear reactor at the best of times.
Yeah,
and then,
he's super hot in bed.
well, that's true as well. But the room was just toasting, and it was one of those situations. Like, I prefer just a sheet and like a cotton blanket, not a doona. And they only had the doona, so I was just sweltering. And so yeah, it got to like 4 a.m. and I was like, oh fuck, I'm just gonna go outside, A, to cool off for a bit, but B, because I'm awake, it's nighttime, I'm in a dark sky reserve. Let's just see what's out there.
Probably the darkest time of the night as well.
Absolutely. And the absolute best call I made, because at that point the moon had set. So on the Saturday night on the stargazing experience, it was good, but it was at like 8:45 at night, and the whole thing, it was close to a full moon. We only just had the full moon lunar eclipse thing this Wednesday, right? So it was quite bright, and it just dimmed the rest of the galaxy around it. And the benefit of doing the stargazing at that time was they were able to point the telescopes directly at it, and we could see the moon, you know, in quite high detail, which was cool, but it didn't quite make up for me for the fact that it was sort of blurring out what else you could see around it.
Right.
So getting up on the Friday night at 4 a.m. and going outside when there was no moon, and we were sort of in a somewhat remote area of the town anyway, and I just walked to the lakeshore and just stared up at the sky, and it was like nearly spiritual, you know. It was one of those real like who am I kind of speck in the universe moments, where the thousands of stars and the strip of the Milky Way in its pristine glory all around you in every direction, like this dome above you, was just like transcendent. It was really one of those special moments. And I just intended to go out for like a 5-minute walk, and I ended up standing out there for like 40 minutes, just staring at the sky, like taking photos and just basking in it. It was amazing.
It's one of those things that is a real shame that we don't actually get to experience that much. And if you think about it, for millions of years prior, humans were able to see those things. And it's like one of those weird quirks about being in a modern society with electricity and whatever that we don't actually get to. And we're going to see that less. And with Elon, let's not go into that, but with Elon putting up his Starlinks, and that people are, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, but the satellites up there in the future, people are only going to see satellites because there's going to be too many in the sky, and they're going to kill the stars.
Well, and the other thing, of course, is that you understand why, in retrospect, there is such historical weight given to the stars, both in terms of like cultural impact, in terms of your ascribing omens to the way the sky was reacting, the way you ascribe them deities and shapes and constellations, and telling stories about them, and telling stories about your land through what you see in the sky. That one of our people at the stargazing thing spend quite a lot of time talking about constellations and how we call it the Southern Cross, but in different parts of the world they have different stories about it. And this one it's a turtle, and in this one here it's connected to this other constellation, and it's there was a bolas thrown at a rhea, like a big ostrich bird, and they see that the Southern Cross is like a 3-pronged bird claw and all this kind of stuff. And you realize that prominence in early folklore is because everyone saw it every night, right?
Yeah. I love that. And it's like they're not, what else are they doing at night? What else is there to do? You look up at the sky
Yeah.
and you're like, it makes total sense that people are reading into back then. They're reading into all these things. Like if you had no knowledge of modern science or anything like that, what the fuck else are you meant to think? Like you just see these specks in the sky and you're just like, well, they've got to be the people that the gods that put us here. That's kind of logical back then.
But here's the crazy thing. The most surprising thing that the astronomer said was that one of the constellations, and I forget which country it was that had this association, but they saw, I think it was the Southern Cross, as a turtle. And when the turtle appeared, and it was probably, I think, in like South America or something like that, and the position of the Southern Cross in the sky and the country in the year meant that it would only ever slightly peak up above the horizon and then disappear again. Like it would never fully go overhead, just due to the position of the stars and the country. But it legit coincided with turtle breeding season. So they saw it as a turtle because at that time of year, when the Southern Cross appeared in the sky, that was when turtles actually came to the beach. So they would see that and they would go, guys, it's turtle season. Let's go and get some eggs, have a real feast. And all the tribes would come together and go to the beach and wait for that influx of breeding turtles and then eat it. So in that respect, it's like, well, of course you're going to fucking believe what the sky says, right? Yeah. Because in this one instance, by complete coincidence, that star appears at the time when the turtles did, and now we'll draw a correlation and see that as a turtle, and thus it's actually true, right? Like,
by the way, what culture are we talking about with this?
I can't remember that. I think it was South America, somewhere in South America. Okay. But I might be wrong.
It's crazy. It's crazy that we're so out of touch with that these days. Like, we'll just look up at the sky, and I'm like taking an interest in it, now. I've always had an interest in astronomy, but never really like taken that seriously. And now I've got like an app on my phone and like kind of being a bit more conscious with it. But we've lost that touch. Like people, for the average punter going outside and seeing, if you're lucky enough to see some stars, you go out to a farm somewhere, see some stars, they're just some speckly bits in the sky. But people used to be able to see those patterns, those kind of fine details, and it's like attributing an emu's foot or a turtle. You're trying to make up these patterns, and you're seeing them actually over the course of a year move across. So you're not just seeing them as just like
over the course of a night,
right?
Yeah,
exactly. But you're also seeing you're noticing them.
Yeah,
every night they kind of get a little bit.
Yeah,
and I'm sure every caveman didn't think this.
Sure.
But, at least some of them did. Like, the ability to do that is just unbelievable. Well,
and like, legitimately navigation, right? Like, people use the stars for navigation. Sailors use the stars for navigation. And
the three kings of Jesus.
Yeah, but, like, being able to look up at the sky and see the Southern Cross and work out, okay, south is that way.
Yeah.
Or in the Northern Hemisphere, find the North Star and know that is literally north. Like,
right.
It's amazing the ingenuity that early cultures had in terms of using the tools they had, the resources they had, to make their lives more predictable, more understandable.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Mm. I would strongly...
To the cavemen.
To cavemen and cave women.
And cave women. And cave them. No?
Yeah.
Too far.
I would strongly encourage anyone who is coming over to New Zealand or who lives here but hasn't got to it to go check out the Tekapo Dark Sky Reserve. It's pretty special. And then you get to soak in a hot pool afterwards.
Isn't it funny that there would have been cavemen that were like trans cavemen, but they just had no expression for it? Like, if they're trans people now, they were cave trans people, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So, like, they were just like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
But did they even have a sense of gender at all back then? I guess so.
Yeah. Definitely would.
But but not a language. Not a verbalization of it.
No, I mean, that must have been tough.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. I got a message, an angry message from one slave schmebber.
Okay.
It's Dave Weber. Who cares?
Okay.
You know, no one's listeners can't be bothered.
If he's writing
remembering. And so in the last episode, I quoted him. Apparently, I quoted him as saying that he thought you were a wokester.
Uh-huh.
Now, he never said that.
Okay.
And he made a point of telling me that, you know, I needed to fix the situation because that was me. That more came from me than anything. Evidently.
Okay, so you were projecting a little bit.
I was projecting onto him, then to you, through him.
Projecting onto him and then quoting the new him back to me as a way of verbalizing your feelings.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think I nailed it.
I didn't hold it against Dave for disagreeing with me anyway, so I'm happy to have you back on board, Dave. I mean, slave.
I wouldn't say on board, but
okay.
That's that.
Oh, nice.
But the main event here, Nick.
Okay.
Something that I've been wanting to talk about for ages, but was too scared to bring up with you because I thought you made fun of me. I thought that maybe you think that this is a silly topic, but we're doing it. You agreed.
Doing
you
it.
texted me. We're talking UFOs and aliens.
Yep. We've done it. We've finally become the podcast that we set out to be.
We finally become the podcast that I wanted us to be from the very start.
To be fair, we have talked about UFOs and aliens before. It's not like it's been a taboo subject. It's not like I've cut it out of previous episodes.
No, but I genuinely, and this is real, I am like, just because of the dynamic of this podcast, I am slightly hesitant to suggest things because I think that you will like shut me down or you'll say, nah, that's stupid.
Oh, no. I feel like
that's true.
I need to make some changes in the way I present myself. What would make it easier for you?
Just when I like suggest something, if you go, even if it's a shit idea, if I say, you know, let's talk about, you know, child porn for a whole episode, even though that's a terrible idea and we shouldn't do that. If you went like, okay, how about? I feel like that might be not for us to, you know, maybe we shouldn't talk about that. Like if you kind of did that, like just pat it a little bit. I might feel a bit better.
I'm not going to do that. So, but let's do this UFO thing.
See that, and okay, that's what I'm talking about right there. It's that. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So dismissive.
Can you please at least give me credit for fulfilling the joke? You teed me up there perfectly.
Was that a joke?
Yes.
Well, okay. Don't you think the fact that I didn't know that it was a joke?
Okay, well,
says something.
Okay, we might need to bring in a counselor to help us improve our communication style. Then.
Oh, that'll be a good app.
I think it'll just end up being a counseling session for us both. We're just like, instead of it being about us and the podcast, we just start bringing up actually important things that we need to sort out personally.
I would love to do that. Do you think we have like underlying issues that we haven't really resolved? I feel like we resolve all of our issues.
Between us or like as humans?
Between the two of us.
I don't think we have underlying issues.
I think we say, we've said this before, I think we're pretty good at, I mean, you especially, you always tell me as soon as you're slightly pissed off.
Wait, was that a joke? Even on issues that are undeserving of being mentioned, is that the implication? What are you trying to say? You having a go at me? Mate, what the fuck? Why would you say something like that?
No, we're good. We're solid. All right. So I don't have how on top of this are you? So the Pentagon has released some footage. Don't laugh, Nick.
No,
I can see you laughing.
It was just a question. How on top of this are you? And I was thinking of what? Of aliens generally. It was
like a semicolon.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't say anything. I held it in.
Not very well, dude. You were
Well,
bursting.
okay. We're never going to get into the subject if you don't just fucking start talking. The Pentagon has
issues, I think.
released.
The Pentagon has released a number of videos that show unidentified flying objects, or as they're now known, UAPs.
UAPs.
You know what that stands for?
No, unknown.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Right. Why did they change?
Well, I
You
think
can't
that's like
rebrand UFOs. That's classic.
UFOs. I get it. UFOs are directly associated with flying saucers. I think UFOs came out of the 60s, out of the Roswell kind of era. And now UAPs are like, it has more of a military bent, unidentified. That's how military personnel, look at me, military personnel. Ooh,
oh,
never said that
using
before.
the big words.
That's how they describe these things to
So what's, sorry,
internally.
say it again. What's UAP stand for?
Unidentified aerial phenomenon or phenomena. Okay. I never know which one it is.
Okay.
So they've released a number of these, and so they've come from Navy ships. This footage. They've come from fighter jet pilots, and we're talking multiple.
Yeah.
Of like little objects that are moving, that are basically defying physics, and are not moving like any other objects that we know that we know that we have the technology of, or that anyone else has that technology to do that, and kind of like moving at the speed of faster than the speed of sound, to other objects moving in zigzag kind of formations, and then dropping into the ocean, and then coming back out, making a splash on the rate, like making a splash.
Yeah, like a physical effect.
Physical effect, affecting the environment, but seemingly not being affected by the laws of physics. Now, 60 Minutes in the United States ran like a whole thing on this, like a whole program last week or the week before. Obama has admitted that there are things out there that we don't know, or that they don't know what they are, but that the governments are aware of. So this is kind of coming into the mainstream conversation, and I think the feeling is amongst people that are kind of interested in this stuff, and I'll admit that Joe Rogan's kind of been like a kind of someone who's kind of been pushing this stuff, but it is an interesting development that we've now got governments admitting that there are things that they don't know what they are, and these reports are coming from quite credible people. They're coming from people in the military and people that aren't like kind of crazy UFO people in New Mexico.
Yeah, actual institutions, and
Yeah.
it both in terms of governments and militaries, but also like press outlets, like seeing that stuff talked about in
New York Times,
Washington Post, or New York Times, and that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, I admit that it was one of those curiosities that came out in 2020, where everyone was kind of like, I don't have time for this. Like, it's interesting,
Right.
but there's too much going on in terms of the end of democracy and pandemic and everything that it came up in the news cycle where they're like, oh yeah, the Pentagon's released video of UFOs, UAPs, and they don't know what it is. And everyone's like, okay, cool. I'm just going to bank that because I got other shit going on.
Yeah.
And it was sort of on my to-do list to go back and have a look at that in more depth. But I will admit that I haven't gone and checked out the video because I'd like to...
You haven't seen any videos?
No, I'd like to have a look at some of that and see what we see. Because the other cool thing about what I'm assuming is fairly recent footage is like our camera tech's got better, right? Our technology's better. So presumably what we're seeing is in a higher resolution than any previous generation ever captured.
Well, I wouldn't get your hopes up there because it's like it's taken from Navy ship and Army fighter jet planes are called.
Air Force?
Probably just that. Air Force jets. It's taken from the radar, so it's effectively radars that we're looking at.
Oh, okay.
So there's not a craft. We're talking about objects that are kind of, 3 foot to 6 foot in diameter, in length. Well, that's what the radar shows up as, but they are moving in freakish ways, and hearing the pilots, react to these things is insane. And on the 60 Minutes that was aired a couple of weeks ago, they've got military guys saying, we get made fun of this stuff amongst ourselves if we can't, but this stuff happens daily. So they kind of make fun of each other for it, but these guys are saying this happens all the time. So it's just interesting. I'm just curious to hear, you haven't seen the videos, but what your feeling of it is, because obviously the mystery of it kind of leads to people going, is this alien? This is aliens. But the other, more probable answer is that it's probably technology from China or Russia that we don't know about. But even if they have that technology, it is like extreme technology. So I'm just curious to hear what your whole vibe, what your sense is. Like, do you think this is all wackadoo, or do you think like there's some legitimacy to it, or do you have any thoughts?
I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a wackadoo. Like, I think it's quite interesting to have things we don't understand, right? I suppose that some of the sort of scientific skepticism is still there, in the sense that, okay, what's the simplest explanation? It's that there's someone terrestrial who's done a thing or made a technological leap that is of strong military import that they haven't shared with other people, because that's, it's like being able to crack the codes in World War II or invent radar. Right. If you have an incredible military advantage on these kind of things, then if you're a combative nation or someone with strong ambitions, then that's not something you're going to share with the rest of the world. So right. Part of me does think, well, the most likely answer is definitely it's something here on Earth, isn't it? The slightly more aspirational side of me wants to think, well, I mean, just because that's possible doesn't mean that there aren't visiting probes or whatever from other places. Who knows what's out there in the universe? And we can't exclude the possibility that there's that sort of stuff happening. But as a somewhat long-time sci-fi reader, that possibility is much scarier to me. The idea that there is actually visiting spacecraft or whatever you want to call it, because the implications of that are far less optimistic. Okay. So I want to get into this. Okay.
I want to get into this. So,
can I just also throw in one more thing as well?
Sure.
My one other my third option is biological or physical phenomena that we don't understand. So going back 30, 40 years, there are all these kind of weird fringe types of lightning, like blue jets and red something. All these kind of strange like cloud-based lightning types, which some jets and as in planes would see as they're flying past. They'd see strange colored lightning and that sort of thing. And that was a physical phenomena that occurred in storm clouds that we didn't really understand, or ball lightning and these kind of things. And I always had a fascination from that, reading science books as a kid, those kind of strange fringe cases of lightning and or physical phenomena. So the third option to my mind is a natural phenomenon that we haven't understood or catalogued or like an event that's occurred because of some electromagnetic interaction or something that's triggering the radar dishes in a certain way or whatever it might be. So I think there's also a benign explanation, which is interesting in its own right, a natural phenomenon that's caused some interaction we don't get, or literally might be a ball of lightning or something, but that is not, Russian spy technology, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like it's in most cases there's going to be a very simple explanation for it. The thing is with the last point there that in a few of these cases that these guys are reporting, they're behaving in unnatural ways. These objects are behaving in unnatural ways, which I guess. I mean, and we're talking about like in terms of speed, accelerating to an extreme speed and then stopping and then kind of moving back. And then in some cases, like imitating the movement of the plane. So I think there's there's a broad spectrum of what these things are doing. And I do agree that most of them are probably very easily explainable. But so what I want to get into, because I love this thought experiment, and I think this is, since I was such a young kid, this has always baffled me, this stuff, and intrigued me. Like, I have to really check my bias when I am reading about this, because since I was 10 and we'd go to the library and I think you get like 5 books, I would, nonstop fill up my bag with 5-8 books on close encounters, UFOs and stuff, and then I would go home and read them, and I'd climb up onto my roof and I'd just sit up there for hours. I was like 8, 9 or 10.
You were climbing on the roof when you were 8?
My parents let me do really weird shit, and I would climb up there and I would just watch for UFOs in the daytime. Didn't see anything, but I so want this to be true. And it's interesting that you said that's the idea that there is another civilization trying to make contact or probe or, monitor us is terrifying to you, because to me, it's just like the most exciting thing in the world.
Oh, don't get me wrong. It would be exciting. I just think that it's also ominous, because any interaction with other civilizations on a galactic level is probably not going to go well for the lower technological species.
Why?
I mean, there have been thought experiments and explanations into all this kind of thing, but the idea being that if anyone has the technology to locate and come visit another planet, they're probably doing it for resources or with hostile intent. There's a fantastic trilogy which I would recommend people reading called The Three-Body Problem. I don't know if that's a trilogy's name. It's definitely the name of the first book.
Sci-fi book?
Say what? That's a sci-fi novel by a Chinese author called Xixin Liu. Or possibly Liu Qixin. Now that I think about it, it might be the other way around. But it translated in English, obviously. And a real fascinating sci-fi experience through the eyes of a Chinese writer who was using it as an analogy in a lot of ways for the threat of like the Cold War between two superpowers, the idea of China versus the US, or threats of that nature where it could be sort of a mutually assured destruction. And one of the core concepts of the books as they go along, which expand in scope exponentially, is the idea that in the in the intergalactic world, what you want to be is quiet. Because if you are an advanced civilization, any other advanced civilization is a risk to your prosperity. So the safest and most sensible thing to do is to eradicate them before they become advanced, because in that way you're ensuring your own dominance. And so any kind of signal that escapes a planet or that might cause attention to be drawn to your location is one that might put you at risk of being taken out. So I really enjoy that trilogy, and I encourage people who have a sci-fi interest to read it. But yeah, conceptually, I think that's where my because that's the most recent thing I've read. I suppose it's what's influenced philosophically the way I'm looking at this kind of first contact question.
The problem with those things is that, like, I feel like we're always projecting what we have, like, right in front of us. So I don't know what year that book was written, but maybe if it's to do with the Cold War, they're like, oh, this is how, the other guys would react, because that's how the other guys are reacting here on Earth. I think there's, like, I've always gravitated to, in terms of sci-fi, more like, it is interesting now that I think about it, that maybe you have gravitated towards, like, I love just District 9 and stuff, but maybe that. But I've always gravitated towards, like, Contact and Arrival, like that type of sci-fi where there's, like, just like an initial, like, two species of something in the universe trying to figure out what the other thing is.
I like the optimism of that.
Yeah, I mean, is it with advancement of technology? I mean, we don't know. We're speculating, but, like, part of me thinks that what comes with that is, like, maybe benevolence, and maybe, like, increased curiosity, and maybe we get to a place of nirvana, where we realize truly what we are. This is part of what blows my mind thinking about this stuff is, like, if there is another civilization out there, do we go, they're the enemy, or do we go, as a human race, do we go, holy shit, like, we're in this together almost, like, you're also here, holy shit. It's like being on an island. It's like, kind of like, I never watched Lost, but, like, I imagine there's, like, one guy out there. I'm not going to talk about Lost. I'll talk about Castaway. If in Castaway...
Oh, I was so excited. I was ready to talk about all my Lost knowledge. I was like, fuck, finally we're talking about something interesting on this podcast.
Fine, we'll make it... I just imagine in Lost, I never saw one episode, but I imagine some guy gets there and he's just like, he's on an island and he doesn't know if anyone else is out there, and then he hears a rustle in the bushes, and then he's like, holy shit, there's another person here, and then they're both like, are you the enemy or are you my friend? But then they become friends.
It sounds more like Last Man on Earth, to be honest.
Right.
But yes. So many things here to say. First was, Three Body Problem is the name of the series, I think, as well, by Chichin Liu. The quote in the cover is from Barack Obama. Wildly imaginative, really interesting. The scope of it was immense. Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States. So you got the Obama endorsement, which is fairly significant.
Although, in my experience, when people have said whatever I've done was imaginative, there was kind of a Trojan horse for this was shit. But we'll try and make it a compliment.
Okay, well, that might be, again, projecting. The second thought that I had is this concept of benevolence, like in this theoretical civilization, is lovely. But think about what we have established internally as a human race, our principles of benevolency to other cultures. In the case of things like those tribes in the middle of the forest who pre-industrial, our position as a Western or more advanced society is one of non-interference, right? We let them live out their lives intact. So if there is a benevolent, holy shit, you guys are alive in the universe as well, philosophy in this other civilization, then surely one of their principles would also be one of non-interference, right? Like, if that's the case, why would they meddle with us or be visible to us? There was a second point about benevolency. No, it's gone for me.
I agree, but I think I just feel like there's a point where, like, we're still very in the infancy of our of our civilization, I feel like, even though we're kind of
Absolutely.
trending up.
Oh, that's what it was.
And so, cool. You say
sorry.
it quick before
Yeah,
you lose it. Before you lose it.
The if they are so advanced that they're now traveling, exploring other galaxies, that sort of thing, then I think, and if they know that there is at least us, then logically they've probably encountered other civilizations or know more about the galaxy than we do and what might have come before or after, right? So I think perhaps the specialness of them meeting us is going to be far less than us meeting them, the first contact, right? It'll be an imbalance in terms of who knows what and the relative specialness of that moment.
That's it. And that for all we know, they are aware that the universe is actually abundant with life.
Yeah.
In which case, it's more like, we don't want to communicate with ants.
No.
We don't want to see an ant here and think I want to talk. Like in which case, like you said, they are coming here probably for hostile reasons.
Yeah.
To take our resources and take our planet.
Yeah.
What did I say?
No, the same thing. I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, I thought you were pulling me up on my pronunciation.
No, yeah.
So this Ezra Klein article that I sent you a couple of weeks ago, he's just got a thing in here that I just wanted to ask you. So I've just changed a few of the words to make it more, changed his New York Times article to make it more relevant to us. But it says...
So you're not actually quoting him anymore?
No, I am. I just changed the towns. This is a quote from his article on this, which I can't remember the title of it. Do you remember what it was called?
I'm just scrolling up now to open it on my screen.
Maybe I should. Okay, it's a New York Times article titled, "Even if you think discussing aliens is ridiculous, just hear me out." Ezra Klein is the...
I'll put it in the chapter title if people want.
Okay, cool. The Vox guy. The founder of Vox. So in this, he says, imagine tomorrow an alien craft crashed down in Christchurch or Melbourne. There are no life forms in it. It's effectively a drone, but it's undeniably extraterrestrial in origin. So we are faced with the knowledge that we're not alone, that we are perhaps being watched, and we have no way to make contact. How does that change human culture and society? How do you think that changes? What do you think? Do people care? In one scenario, people don't even care. Like,
yeah, I mean,
they might not even. They'll be like, okay.
I mean, in some ways, I genuinely think that it wouldn't make a difference at all, because I think we've learned there is far more propensity for distrust of government and media institutions at the moment than I think has ever been. So do
you think people wouldn't believe it?
I think a sizable proportion of the populace would just be like, nah, that didn't happen because it doesn't accord with my worldview or my religion or whatever. So you're the lying media. There would be a government skepticism thing where it's like, oh, they're just saying that as, pretense to launch a war against things or to redirect budget into space or NASA or something like that. So I think that there's probably like 30% that even if you showed them that information would say, no, that it didn't happen and refuse to even acknowledge it. Then
if there was a thing a physical thing that, the US government has in their possession and they come out and say, this is from another world.
Yeah, but what are they going to put it in a museum? No, they'll be studying it, right?
Right.
So is it going to be visible? Can Joe Blow go up and, have a look at it and be like, hey, that's an alien? Yeah. And if that did land in a paddock in an area of the United States jurisdiction, they would confiscate it, right? And they would, if that's a technological advantage, they'd study it and try and learn everything they could about it for personal gain, right? Like for national gain.
Yeah.
It wouldn't.
But it would be. It's interesting in that case because it would be a global matter. And just the sheer coincidence that it landed in the US is it would be completely unfair that they wouldn't share that with the world, which they would. They wouldn't.
But
are
you suggesting this is a visible thing where like all of the world watch on satellites and things as this thing plummets to the Earth, and like everyone else knows it's there?
I was imagining, this thing's crashed to the earth. There's like mobile phone footage of this thing. The government can't deny it, so they come out with a statement and they say,
"Yeah,
it's a thing. We have it," and then they actually show us a little bit of it, but then they study it.
Yeah, fair enough. And then of like the other 70%, I think some people would believe it, and it would be truly transformative, and they would be like, holy shit, like how can we now live our lives knowing that there's actually things out there? This changes everything, my values, the things I prioritize, the way I want to spend my time, the places I want to go. Like it would be a complete disruption. And then there would probably be 40%, which is like, oh shit, that's pretty interesting. I wonder what that'll be like. And then continue to go about their day-to-day lives without really thinking about it moment to moment.
Yeah.
It's like,
funny because
let's check in on that in a year. See what's up with the alien spacecraft.
I think you're right there. Like, I think the level of ambivalence would be pretty mind-blowing. And it's weird that, like, I basically walk around with the idea that there is alien life out there somewhere. I mean, and if there is, by the way, we're aliens to the aliens.
Yeah.
But I'm already kind of like, I've already got that in my mind. I'm like basically decided in my head that there's another civilization, even if they're way too far away for us to ever contact. There's, the chances of it the numbers just seem like there is. So having that confirmed, would that actually really change my life? I mean, it would basically, I think what it would do for me on a personal level would be basically confirm that life is meaningless, in the sense that there's no greater
purpose or
thing to it. There's no godlike ideas about what's going to happen after you die. Like the afterlife is done after that point. If we find out they're an alien, there's also no afterlife.
Do you think that's true? If God created humans, can't God create aliens? Wouldn't it be amazing if heaven's just like this big intergalactic party, like the Star Wars like cantina scene? Everyone's just hanging out, all these different tentacles and things, having a beer together, being like, "Well, shit, wasn't life weird?" In some ways, this is weirder.
I mean, literally, life is fucking just bizarre. It is bizarre. Like if you walk around, if you go to the shops with the idea in your head that we are aliens to aliens, and actively think about that while you're going to buy some peanuts and bread, you start to look at everyone like an alien.
Yeah. And probably act like an alien yourself.
Yeah, when you're just like,
yep, that's aliens.
Just getting some cupcakes. I've actually had this conversation with my dad about, he said once to me that my belief that there are aliens or that there's another alien life, which by the way, it's not a belief, it's a guess.
Yeah.
But he once said to me that is like, that's basically having faith, trying to do that old religious equivalency thing, which is bullshit. But I asked him then, if we did discover that aliens did exist, there was another civilization out there, would that change your faith? Would that affect your belief in God? And he said, no, it wouldn't. So maybe, Christians have famously, and all monotheists have famously sidestepped every scientific discovery to make their religious belief fit with that. So I feel like that it's not going to be a problem. The Pope's going to come up with a statement. We make contact with extraterrestrial life. The Pope comes out with a statement saying we're all God's children / aliens.
Yeah, except gays.
He's like, except for gays.
Yeah.
The aliens
still on the outs.
The aliens are people. Gays,
aliens are in.
Still not people.
Do fish go to heaven?
Is that a real question?
It is a real question. In the Christian religion, do animals go to heaven?
I don't think so, which is just the most absurd thing, because they This is the thing that annoys me about religion. I know we have to wrap up because you have to have some food in your tum-tum. But the thing that annoys me about religion is that it's predicated on the idea that humans are above animals when we are exactly the same as animals. We are animals.
Yeah, just different.
It's
animals.
elitist. A religion is elitist to animals.
Yeah, let the frogs in. Let the frogs into heaven, Jesus. Go to bed, Jesus. Any more? There was one thing KC mentioned. Oumuamua. Do you know this? Oumuamua?
Yeah.
The first known interstellar object detected passing through the solar system.
So, this is Casey outing himself as a Joe Rogan listener.
Yeah, well, he doesn't need to be outed. He's very prominently said that.
Right.
So, do you talk to me about this? This was 2017.
So this was that long. I think it was. I don't know what the difference between a meteorite and a comet is. I guess it was a comet because I think a meteorite is something that crashes into Earth. This was a long, like cylindrical. Sorry, not cylindrical. I keep saying cylindrical. Like poo-shaped. That's better. More scientific. Poo-shaped object that passed Earth.
It was a sky turd.
It was a sky astro turd. That some scientists. It's got a ring to it.
The 2017 astro turd incident.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
That flew past. I don't know how close it got to Earth, but there was speculation from this one particular scientist that Joe Rogan, in my opinion, gave way too much time. That this was actually an alien, an object sent from aliens because it was too perfect in shape.
Yeah,
it was wacky. It was wacky.
Sure, you're not. That doesn't do any more for you than the actual radar stuff.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, this guy was he was like some Harvard scholar or something. So his title gave him a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But I think it was, it's pretty wild.
It's so far away and so hard to see.
They've got scans of this thing, and it's no, it's a rock, but
sure.
It's a cool rock.
Mm.
But I like that he. Did you tell him we were talking about UFOs, and he sent that in?
Correct.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. If you've had a good chat about aliens and want more, then there's plenty of other episodes in this damn feed that you can go back and listen to. There's an archive at deepfort.podbean.com. You can find all of our links and updates at Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, Instagram. There's pics up on the feed when interesting things happen. There's an email address, deepfort@gmail.com, to which you can send questions and comments and feedback, and we might even do that in a second. And if you are on your podcast app, please be sure to give us a good old rating, because it'll help as we move up inexorably towards the title of Australia and New Zealand's #1 podcast.
Did you say mailbag in that?
Yeah, I did.
Did you? Oh, cool. I haven't actually. Okay, cool. Nick, do you want to do it now?
Yeah, I thought you were about to lead into let's do a mailbag.
I
thought you were going to toss it up, but then you stopped.
I was, but then I panicked. I'm not good at being the host. You should definitely be the host of this. I think I've decided. You should be the host of the podcast.
Okay, well, I'll
and
keep
you
that
should
in
do
mind
all
for
the
next
editing.
time.
And you should do all the editing.
Okay, we can start that next week.
Yeah. All right. Play the jingle.
Mailbag, mailbag, it's the weekly mailbag. Deep Thoughts mailbag.
Oh, been a while since we've been in the mailbag.
Mailbag.
Okay, Mikey, you have access to the internet. That's always been true. You have access to the mailbag now, so do you want to do this?
It's not
one?
necessarily been true.
That's fair.
Yeah, so Nick, I need to preface this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been so we got pretty close to advertising with Manscaped. Remember that?
I mean, pretty close. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, but yes. We're approached.
We got within a
We're
balls.
approached.
We
We're
got within a
headhunted.
balls whisker of a sponsorship deal with Manscaped, as we
Yeah.
all know.
Yep.
Just missed out by
Just
a couple
missed
of
out.
thousand listens per episode.
It wasn't actually that
was a
many.
lot.
It was 500.
It was surprisingly attainable, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
couldn't even do that. So,
Yeah.
one day we'll be massive, Nick. One
Yeah,
day
yeah.
we'll be massive. We've also had, close encounters with Smooth My Balls, which may or may not be a real company.
We haven't heard any further from Smooth My Balls.
So and I've been flirting with the idea of the Patreon thing. Basically, your boy's hustling, Nick.
Okay.
Your boy
You're getting out
hustles.
there. Yeah.
So those things didn't work out, but one thing I have offered and put out there into the ether sphere is maybe if you want to advertise to I should start that again. I really fucked that up. Maybe I'm doing it again.
You
Starting it
repeated the same
way.
sentence. Yeah.
I've put it out to my friends
Uh-huh.
that maybe if you want to advertise, you can. And you can send us $1 per 30 seconds,
Okay.
and we'll read out whatever you want us to read out.
Per
It
30
can be maybe
seconds.
30 seconds for $1.
Okay.
Cheap. We're whores, man. We're
Okay.
whores. Not that there's anything wrong with a whore. But 30 seconds, $1. If you want to email us at deepfort@gmail.com, you can do it. If you want to say happy birthday to someone, if you want to have a go at us, we'll read out whatever you say you want us to read. We'll read it out. $1, 30 seconds.
You've agreed
1
to
minute.
this without consulting me.
So it was surprising you.
Okay.
This is your real birthday present.
Okay, fair. Beyond just the mooning from earlier.
Okay.
So
So-
am I compelled to say things too, or you've just signed me up for this?
You don't have to say anything. Yeah, basically, they can say who they want to read the thing.
Okay, so you have enlisted me to dance like a little puppet.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
For
Little
$1.
monkey boy. For $1.
For $1. And so here's what I want to
30
here's
seconds.
my question though.
Hey, if you want to take up 10 minutes, that's fine. We'll do it.
But here I want to know. So, in newsrooms, at the New York Times, there is a strict church and state divide between advertising and editorial, and so we're not quite at the institutional size of something like a New York Times to employ
Not yet.
someone to sort of take control of the advertising side of it. But I want to know what's our sort of integrity here.
No integrity.
If we're being paid for 30 seconds, we read verbatim the thing given to them. They have 30 seconds of time, and then we stop the clock and we never address it again. Is that the idea? We do not elaborate. We do not continue talking. We do not riff. We do not joke. You get 30 seconds. Boom. We're done. You're out. Or is the expectation that then we're going to sort of shit talk around this thing as well? Because that seems to me like they should be paying more if we're going to like have a chit chat around it.
I think it's the latter because at the end of the day, Nick, this is content. And this is an opportunity to interact with our fan.
How dare you describe us as merely content?
It's the worst term ever, isn't it? With it, it's in my job title, which I really love.
Okay, so let's give this a demo run. We've got a volunteer.
So we have our first customer.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You said volunteer. This is
Well,
my volunteer.
yeah, they're
I've already
paying.
been beamed.
You've been beamed.
Which is 50 cents each, by the way. So we've had our first ad request, and by the way, I say ad, but it's just basically space. It's basically people using our platform to
Okay,
say
we're a billboard.
We're a billboard. Okay. So we've had an email and immediately from Casper.
Uh-huh. Well, hold on. Let me get the timer going. We've got to make sure that we do this by the books.
Right, let me. I'll read the email and then I'll read because it's in a PDF document. So
Okay, so there's email copy, and that's within the zone of mailbag, the segment. But then the
Yeah,
moment
yeah,
we
yeah.
get to PDF, that's add space, and we start the clock. Is that right?
we may have to start getting the lawyers involved. But you've got a law
Okay.
degree, don't you?
Yeah.
So this one says, "Hello, attached is my ad bought and paid for from Deep Fort Pty Ltd for $1.00. This is an invoice I'm reading, apparently. Thank you for this opportunity. A platform like yours is one I've aspired to be catapulted from for a very long time." Wow. That's... I did not manage those expectations. Clearly.
Sure.
All right. So here's the ad. Nick, start the clock.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Ad times.
Deep Fort got you thinking? Me neither. Are you tired of feeling like the only one listening? Tired of jingles without resolution? Of segments without segues? You are not alone. Listen to Deep Thunkers every other Sunday on ABC. They fought, we conquered. This is a paid advertisement from the Friends of Castle Moxon. We accept no responsibility for needing unfilled or faith misplayers. No money back, no money at all. That was exactly 30 seconds.
Well, yeah.
I think
give
I
or take.
butchered that last disclaimer, but
Did
I
we
don't really know what that was.
did we just run an ad that insulted our own podcast
I think we might have accidentally done that
for $1?
for a dollar.
You've really quite demeaned us, Michael.
Yeah, dude. Sorry.
So you hadn't pre-read. We don't have ad standards.
No.
So
don't
is this
pre-read
segment just going to be our friends paying us $1 to send insults to us for us to read? Is that what?
that? Hey, if it makes us money, dude. If it makes us money. We're going to monetize this shit. It's been 7 fucking years.
Yeah, we'll start clawing back into the
I
black
don't see you-
$1 and 10 insults at a time.
Well, I don't see you coming up with any bright ideas.
I've written this off as a tax deductible for the past 5 years. Well, thank you, Casper, for your sponsorship of the show. Congratulations on being the first ever official sponsor. And I suppose the advertising slot is open.
Yes,
Michael,
it is.
how do you feel about booting up the old rec engine? It's been a while.
Oh my god, I would fucking die for that.
Grab the keys. Welcome to Deep Fort's recommendation engine.
By the way, just before Rec Engine, got some very good feedback from one Mr. Pekevsky on Bitlyball.
Oh.
Who said it was one of the greatest games he's ever heard of, and he wants to get involved. He wants to play it.
He wants to play.
You know, he wants to play with his friends. Too bad he doesn't have any friends. But
Well, he'll have to license it. 30 cents. given how low we've set our value.
it all adds up.
It all adds up. Rec Engine. It's been a while. Just to check in on the media and culture and things that we've been enjoying. Have you got anything you want to throw in the mix?
Yeah, I got one. It's the Absolutely Mental podcast it's a new podcast with Ricky Gervais and Sam Harris. I know you've probably got mixed feelings about both of those guys, Nick, but
Curious.
it's a 30. Sorry, you go on.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm curious.
It's basically what you think it would be. It's 30-minute episodes. It's kind of costly. It's like £15. Wait, £15? It was either £15 or 15 US. It worked out to be $20 for 11 episodes at half an hour a piece. But it's just like Ricky Gervais. He's a philosophical guy. He's just like asking the big questions. What's the point of life? Blah blah blah. And they have this conversation, and it's just fucking awesome. And I love Sam Harris so much, and I love Gervais in that setting when he's not trying to like, you know, be afterlifey
Proselytize
or
and yeah.
I love it when he's just asking questions and being silly. And it's just a beautiful. it's just a beautiful podcast, and it's fun, and it's silly, and it's really, it's just interesting. I love hearing those guys talk. So absolutely mental. It's like 15, I think it's $15 US, but for
as in,
11 episodes.
Is it a private RSS feed, or are you buying it through Apple Podcasts, or how are they charging for it?
It's just through their website, so you're buying a private RSS feed.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, kind of spenny, but I bought it for myself for my birthday, and I mean, you're getting like 5 hours of content.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
It's really not. If you break it down,
like
you
a
get
movie
used to
ticket.
like not paying. Exactly, you get used to like not paying for that shit.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. Like if you actually put a monetary value on it, it's like, oh, this is very good value.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend that.
I spend $50 a year on a tech podcast, and I get 2 15-minute episodes a week. You know, like I'll pay for those kind of things if they're like good people that are reliably interesting all the way through.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, that's my rec.
I'll throw one in, which I think you are also a big fan of, which is the HBO Max series Hacks. Hacks.
Oh, yeah.
A half-hour comedy series from some of the creators of Good Place and...
Really?
Jen Statsky is a big Mike Shaw writer, and he's one of the producers on it. And then the other two, I think, are more from the Broad City side of things, but together...
Oh, shit. I can kind of see all the... I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
I can kind of see it.
They've come together to make a series starring Gene Smart as this, 60-something legend of a stand-up comic who's been doing a Joan Rivers type, who's been doing sets at Vegas for a decade or something, and sort of stagnating, and a young upstart writer who's down on her luck, sort of being cancelled after a bad tweet, and ends up taking this reluctant role to go and write jokes for this old legend who doesn't want her around either. And it's just a really charming kind of show. It's actually not as funny moment to moment as I think you might think it is.
There's some big laughs though.
There are some big laughs, but it's not like a... Like, there are some scenes which are actually don't have many jokes in them, and then there are others which are funny. Like it does straddle that line of drama a little bit as well. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. But I find it quite charming. I think Gene Smart, as everyone knows, is a genius. And I've loved for a couple of years now Meg Stalter, who plays the receptionist, who is just the best fucking character.
Who is that? She's so funny.
She was like a Twitter comedian who just exploded a couple of years ago, who does these weird videos
of hers.
Yeah. She does like weird characters, and I think she's come up in the improv scene. She has a podcast called Confronting Demons with Meg Stalter, where she invites guests on and then just launches into them with all of the terrible things that they've supposedly done to her in the past, and just like all of these like made up silly gripes that she has with all these guests.
They're actually made up?
Yeah.
Or she's like...
It's just like a big improv riff session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
it's
very funny, and she's...
The show is... Yeah, Hacks is the greatest.
Yeah.
It is like bread, and it is like exactly right down the middle of what I like and what gets me off. Like, it's like comedy. It's like a dramedy thing with the focus is on the dialogue, I feel like, and the characters. But it's also like comedy, like the world of comedy that I like am fascinated by, and it's just like it hits when you sent me you sent me this a couple of weeks ago, I think. And I thought I was getting into like a Dolly Parton kind of thing. That's what I watched like half of the trailer and thought it's a Dolly Parton thing. But then Emma and I watched the first, episode, and then we just watched the next two, and it's just so good. So thanks for the rec.
No, I'm glad you're liking. I think a little cooler on it than you are. I still like it, but I don't think it's like really hit me like 100%. But I'm just hanging out for like every scene in the agent's office more than I am like watching the girl trawl through archives. Like, I don't really connect with the writer character too much yet, but it's early days.
I think we watch things in different ways. I think.
Sure. Yeah.
But who is the writer girl? Like, she's
Hannah
amazing.
Einbender. I've never heard of her before, but she's a good actor. The character I haven't quite clocked onto yet.
It's weird. It's a funny thing. I wonder if it's like a straight man thing or a cis. I still don't know what cis is.
Cis is just the gender that you were assigned at birth. Like if you're biologically male and you are gender identified as male, then you're just a cis person.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's like it's the straight version of trans, if that makes sense. Like if straight straight is to gay, what cis is to trans, right?
Sure.
It sounds like you didn't understand. Do you understand?
No, I didn't. No, that confused
So
me.
trans people are a different internal gender to the biological presentation, and cis people, that's in alignment. So if you are biologically male and you identify as a male, then you're cis.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder if it's a cis male thing, but I find, or if it's just a me thing, that I find that like every kind of like, I just fall in love with those characters. Like if it's like a female character in that kind of setting, I'll just like instantly fall in love with them.
Right.
Do you ever get that?
What do you mean by fall in love? Do you mean like literally like there's a sort of romantic interest in them, or is it like a protectiveness kind of like I'm rooting for them sort of vibe?
No, it's like it's like massively projecting and massively just like imagining being with them and imagining that they're my girlfriend.
Okay, yeah, like actually falling in love with them. Yeah.
It's like what's this? So you know the term manic pixie dream girl?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a new term that I've learned, and everyone knows about this. I'm the last one to know about this, but like, these girls are like, or the writing of these girls, they're geared to like make men like me fall in love with them, or am I just like,
no,
am I crazy?
Yeah, no, that's it is like a male writer archetype. Like it's not a human that really exists in that way, because it's shallow and it's still directed towards the male gaze.
What's shallow about it? It's like they're usually like quirky kind of girls, and they're like, you know, interested in Radiohead, but they'll, you know, tell you you're a dickhead, and it's like, that's everything I want in a woman is to love Radiohead as much as me, and to tell me that I'm a piece of shit, which I share that interest with them as well. Yeah. It's about sharing interest.
It's about sharing interest. Check out Hacks. It's pretty good.
It's fucking good.
Do you have another one? I have one more.
No, my other one was gonna be Master of None, the third season.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed, but then I watched another episode and I was like, so I withdraw my rec.
Okay. I never really got into it from the start. I gave it a try, but it didn't do it for me. But the show that has been giving me big guttural laughs is Girls 5 Ever. Have you heard of Girls 5 Ever?
Weirdly today.
Yeah. Girls 5 Ever is the latest Tina Fey and Robert Carlock show, who created 30 Rock, who created Kimmy Schmidt, and the very underrated Great News, which is on Netflix and is also excellent. Go and watch Great News. You can watch all 2 seasons.
With Rachel McAdams?
No, but she sort of looks like that. But Girls 5 Ever is about a girls group that was formed in the 90s, reconvening 20 years later because their lives are all shit and they're trying to do a reunion tour. And so it's got this... Busy Phillips. It's got Paula Pell, who's always awesome. Sarah Bareilles, who's an actual singer and the lead of the show, but is surprisingly hilarious.
Cool.
And it's basically a bit of a skewering of the pop scene of the 90s and how they would like manufacture these groups together and all the different personalities and the way they'd be taken advantage of by their agents and the kind of real sexist misogynistic songs they'd have to sing, and it is just an absolute like joke factory. There will be 10 jokes a minute, and it is that style of rapid pace, like line after line after line after line, which is a little bit rare these days with so many comedies meandering into that sort of dramedy space. But there's something refreshing about going back to just these true masters of this style and letting them just throw jokes at you just endlessly. Every line, just joke, 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 joke. That's real good.
Like it's on Stan. This does not like, what is the marketing team doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to communicate, I suppose, because the thing they're satirizing is what it just looks like on the box, right? But it's got a very catchy theme song. Stephen Colbert is in an episode playing a Swedish music producer. It's very weird. Yeah, it like just very, very enjoyable. I would recommend it if you like those shows, 30 Rock. If you like Great News, if you like Kimmy Schmidt. It's not quite as weird as Kimmy Schmidt. It's a little bit more grounded. Give it a look. I really, it makes me laugh more than most things at the moment.
Well, that's a big rec, and I'll take it as a sign from Allah that I should watch this, because earlier today a colleague said, "Has anyone seen this show Girls 5 Ever?"
Yeah.
And I thought from the title it sounded terrible, but then now I've heard this and I'm in.
It's the lyrics are. I mean, the whole point of the thing, Girls 5 Ever, is that it's dumb, right? And it was a team of 5 girls, but now one of them's died, so there's only 4 of them in Girls 5 Ever. But the lyrics are, we're going to be famous 5 ever because that's one more than 4. We're going to be friends 3gether because that's one more than together. It's like, and it's just stuck in my head at all times. It's genuinely catchy.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.